Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Gina Bianca podcast, where we talk about life, business, entrepreneurship, the beauty industry, and beyond. My name is Gina Bianca, life and business coach, salon owner, educator, mastermind mentor, and your host of the Gina Bianca podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Gina Bianca podcast. So excited to be here again with one of my mentors and business coaches, Michael Yost of Strategies. We are here today to talk about the 4 business outcomes and break them down for all of you. I'm so excited to talk about these things. I'm so geeking out about business. I love to talk about the business side of things, and I love to talk about it with people who really, really understand it and can help me learn too. So I'm really excited. I know I'm going to learn so much. So Michael, welcome back to the show. Introduce yourself for anyone who might not have heard our first episode, and we'll get started.
All right. Thanks for having me back again, Gina. My name is Michael Yost. I am the Vice President of Education here at Strategies. And again, just as I like to say, if you're not familiar with Strategies, we are a business education company within the beauty industry. So thanks for having me back, Gina.
My pleasure. So excited. Our first episode was amazing. If you guys haven't listened to it yet, make sure you go back and listen to it. It was an amazing episode. We talked all about team-based business. We talked all about strategies, and we ended the episode talking about the 4 business outcomes. And the reason we were talking about the 4 business outcomes is because I shared one of the best things I learned from strategies when I was first opening my business was the 4 business outcomes. Because like most salon owners, I wanted to open a business to start my own thing, to have my own culture, to build my own dream, and to really create that vision and bring it to life. But I was lacking the business education, and really what I learned from strategies, one of the biggest things were the 4 business outcomes. I go back to them all the time. I feel like they're super foundational and really easy to break down and unpack on the podcast. So let's start, Michael. What are the 4 business outcomes?
So 4 business outcomes are productivity, profitability, staff retention, and customer loyalty. And as we talked at the end of the last episode, but if you didn't hear it, what I shared was these 4 outcomes are a part of everyone's business. Anything that you do in your company, the day-to-day workings of your company impact at least one, if not, and honestly, all of these outcomes, because they're all intertwined. So it does not matter what services you offer, does not matter the type of business that you are. You will impact one or more of these areas with every action that happens in your company. And, I love them. And Gina, I know how you shared you love them, but I love them because when I was a business owner, and again, I was a business owner for 16 years, every time I started to get myself a little bit off course, every time I got myself a little bit in the deep end of the swimming pool and felt like, what do I need to focus on? I always use these to center myself back to say, is a decision or something, an action I'm taking today impacting one of these 4 outcomes in a positive way? And if so, then I'm doing the right work of my day. So I just use them as a centering tool as well. So again, productivity, profitability, staff retention, customer loyalty, those are your outcomes, and you all have them.
Yeah, they happen no matter what.
Yep,
okay.
Exactly.
Amazing. So I love this. I'm so excited to talk about it. So let's start with productivity. So what is productivity?
All right. In the simplest way to think about it is productivity is the work of the company. We'll just say it that way. It's the work of the company. And, we measure productivity from a standpoint of the hours that we have available to sell. And so, again, here's a commonality amongst all of us that are listening. You sell time. Simple as that. You sell time. If you're in a customer service business, you sell time. Now, you may call your time a haircut, a color service, a massage, whatever you call it. Doesn't matter what you call it. In the end, you sell time. And so productivity is the work of the company, or more specifically, the measurement of the time and how efficiently we sell that time in our company.
Love it. I'm taking notes. Like always taking notes, talking to you guys. So productivity, we sell time. And I feel like I've been preaching this for a million years. Especially with like the price breakdowns and everything, and talking about charging, like talking about hourly pricing and all of those things. And like, I'm the type of person who I have a la carte pricing on the back end, and then I put my pricing out there, and it is, booked in services, but I'm thinking of hour long, 2 hour long, 3 hour long, 4 hour long time slots, and how I can be the most productive while I'm at work. So when we talk about productivity as a salon owner, what can salon owners do to increase their productivity?
Well, again, some key things that you can do to increase productivity is simply this. And so, first thing I would just immediately start with, the easiest thing is to pre-book appointments. Pre-book appointments. It's the absolute easiest thing you can do to impact productivity, especially for your future. All right. Now, what is that going to do anything to impact productivity in that day? No, not specifically for that day, but it does help you for the next in 30 days or 60 days or whenever that next appointment would get scheduled. And it's an area that still so many businesses still kind of treat kind of like, well, I know that, but, and they I don't think they still put the emphasis on it that it really needs to have. So one thing that you can do is pre-book to ensure that your future time is being sold. So there's one thing. I got more. I don't know, but I don't know if I'm going to stop there just to say, I don't know if you want to break anything down already or not, Gina. So I'll pause for a second.
I remember I came home from a strategies class, and we had all these iPads I had bought. Like, I was like literally bawling out when we were at my team-based salon. We were like always innovating with technology. We had like music videos playing in the background. We had like all kinds of stuff there. But I remember I bought all these iPads, and my vision was that everyone had their portfolio on the iPad. But little did I know the iPads would be our number one pre-book driver. I came back from a class. I think I took incubator for the second time. I came back and I was just like, okay, we're pre-booking everybody from now on. I want you guys to watch me today. I'm going to pre-book 100% of my appointments, because I was having a challenge with no shows, last minute cancellations. And I had so many artists that we had hired, but we hadn't implemented a cancellation policy. We hadn't implemented we weren't being super like amazing with confirmations, because we didn't have a set front desk person. So we were having those fall through the cracks where we had hours available and productivity was at like 60%. And when you have a big team, you're paying out hourly, you don't want to cut hours, and you really want to, because cutting hours can really like dampen the mood. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was like, we must solve this problem of productivity. We can't have all these people here just cleaning. And we can't be cutting hours. Like, that is not good for culture. It's just not. People want to be working. And if they don't want to be working, this didn't fit with our culture anyway. So we had a challenge. And I remember coming back from class and I was just like, this is going to solve the productivity issue that we were having. And there were so many things affecting productivity. Like I had shared before, like the last minute cancellations, no show, so many things. But I was like, there's one thing that can change it. And it was pre-book. And the iPads, I went through, and at every single appointment in the consultation, I got the pre-book. And even if they said no, I did it anyway. And I was just like, listen, I'm busy. I'm going to put it in. You can cancel it on your way out, but I have to make sure that I at least get you in the day and time that you want, because I cannot guarantee you're going to get the day and time that you want. We were slower than ever, but nobody knew that.
Right.
We were slower than ever, but nobody knew that. And it was like in the summertime, we had so many last minute cancellations, no shows, all of those things. And other ways I'm sure we'll talk about shortly about productivity is those cancellation fees, the confirmations is huge. Like if you're going to pre-book, you have to confirm appointments. You can't just pre-book and then do nothing. You're going to have so many no-shows. People just don't remember. So it's really elevating that service to the next level. But pre-book for me changed my business. And once I saw the problem solved, it was literally like, oh, problem solved. Now it's like, we're 80% productive. Let's hire people. And then it's getting them busy and doing marketing to get them booked.
Yep. So, going back to, actually, as you were kind of talking about all that, and again, love everything that you shared there. You brought up a couple of things that I think I want to make sure that before we progress any farther that we talk about as well, because you mentioned you threw out a productivity number and, you said 60% or things like that. For those that aren't familiar, let's step back. Actually, I'm going to go back 2 steps.
Let's go back because I just totally like word vomited everything.
That's all right.
Like,
no, that's all right.
You're like, do you want to talk about pre-book? I'm like, absolutely, I do.
Absolutely. We can talk more about pre-book for sure. What I want to say is, so productivity, is the measurement of your time, right? How many hours, how efficiently, let's just say it this way. This is where I'm taking that step back to the beginning because I should have said it then. So if productivity is the measurement of how effectively or efficiently we sell our time, you guys should kind of probably know what a good range to measure our productivity would be. So let's start with that to say that we advocate at Strategies, we advocate that you live in the 80 to 85% range when it comes to productivity. So what I mean by that is I have 100 hours available for sale in my company, as an example. I might have 100 hours for sale. And what I mean by that is I'm taking, my schedule along with Gina's schedule, along with Jim's schedule and Julie's schedule. I add those up and I say, hey, between the 4 of them, we have 100 hours available to sell, let's say in this week. Okay. Now, how many of those hours did we sell? So it's hours sold, and we look then at how many hours we have available for sale. So I have 100 hours available for sale. How many of those hours did I sell? Let's say I sold 75 of those hours. Well, if I sold 75 hours, I had 100 hours for sale. That means I'm 75% productive. So in other words, it's small number divided by the bigger number gives you a percentage, basically. All right. And that's how you want to calculate it for your company. All right. That's how you want to calculate for your company. Now, we advocate 80 to 85%. For the reason being that when you get above 85%, you start to become too busy. And there is such a thing as too busy. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people hang their hat on the pride of, you can't get into me for 6 months. Well, that's not really something to brag about, to be honest with you. That might be kind of nice to hear and kind of nice to, makes you feel good. But the fact of the matter is what that means is the business or you are turning away business that wants to be a part of you. And so when you grow above 85%, you actually start to turn more business away than what you can accept. And so, 85% allows you to certainly be very busy as a company. And it might take a little bit of time to get into your company, couple weeks, maybe 3-4 weeks, things like that. But we don't want to be inconveniencing either, because the phone's ringing and you know how that conversation goes, Gina, right? You've been on the end of these calls where, hey, the phone rings and Mrs. Jones is like, hey, can I get a haircut? And you're like, I got something in like 8 weeks from now. And then she doesn't say no. What she says is, you know what? I need to go check something. I'll call and get back to you. And we know exactly what that means. That means she's calling 5 other places around you. And if she can get in sooner there, she's going to take that opportunity, rather than take yours. So
I have to say, just to add on to that is like, that conversation, the conversation for me is like, yeah, come now.
Right. Exactly. I was going to say you were the queen of like, come now. What? Like, where are you going to do that? I don't know, but I'll figure it out.
literally, that was me. I was just like, yeah, just come now. And like, okay. So let's talk about balance really quick of our 4 business outcomes, because that would positively affect profitability, but it will negatively affect staff retention because you're working everybody to death. And it will negatively affect customer loyalty because we are not spending that dedicated time to our customer and we're squeezing people in. And as far as productivity goes, you can be too busy. That's what leads to burnout.
Yep. And Gina, I love the fact that you said that. That's exactly it. The byproducts, along with being, along with turning business away that wants to be a part of your business. Gina, man, you just said 3 so super powerful things that are all 100% spot on. You get too productive, that over 85%, and you just use the right word. Burnout happens. Because what that looks like then is, hey, you know what? People would, I don't know, maybe in a 10-hour day, like to have at least a lunch somewhere or grab at least a sandwich and not have to do it while they're mixing color in the back or while they're doing something else or making up excuses to step out for just a second so you can go. I mean, the beauty of, I have been out of the hairdressing. I sold my business just over 5 years ago. I still eat like a hairdresser, and we all know what that means. That means I can eat a pizza in about 3.5 minutes because that's what we're all trained to do. And I do it standing up. My wife still yells at me. She's like, would you sit down to eat? I'm like, I like to stand up to eat. It just feels more natural because that's what you do. You do it over the sink, right? Or at the washer or the dryer, right? That's where you're cramming food in your face.
You're like, I was born this way.
Yeah. So it leads to burnout. Simple said, it leads to it's hard to create a balance in life when you're that productive, when that gets too extreme. It's hard to create. And I love the fact that you said this, and I know we'll explore this more. A huge piece of what I don't want to go unnoticed. The customer experience suffers. It will suffer. I guarantee it. And that is not good. When we get to customer loyalty, we'll talk way more about that, but I'm just going to leave it alone and say, but that customer experience suffers, the burnout, all those things that you cited, 100%.
Totally. So we talked about what is productivity, hours for sale versus hours sold, and that percentage, right? We talked about how we measure it. You said the big number divided by the small number, right? Did I get it right?
Small number divided by the big number.
Small number divided by the big number.
And that'll give you like some kind of a decimal, but that's your percentage. It'll be like 0.73, so 73%.
Or you can ask Siri and she will give you the
Or you can ask Siri. You got it.
So my 5th grade math teacher, she was just like, you're not going to have a calculator. I'm like, no, I'm going to have a robot to tell me.
And sure enough, you were right.
Absolutely. As always. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. So we also talked about where our productivity should be, which is around 80 to 85%. And can you be too busy? Yes. You could lead you to burnout. That is not healthy. Obviously, it can lead to a bad guest experience. It could lead to burning out your staff. So it's going to negatively impact the other 4 business. So remember, we were saying just the things you do every day. So taking that extra appointment will positively or negatively affect those 4 business outcomes. And I want to add one more, because overbooking and being too busy will affect all 4 business outcomes negatively. And I know from personal experience, because profitability, will you make more money? Yes. Will it damage your relationship with profitability? Yes, because I had a very unhealthy relationship with my profitability number. It was like, if I wasn't hitting a certain number, I was not happy. And it was only possible with me double, triple, quadruple booking. So it was a really unhealthy relationship with those numbers. It wasn't reality, and it wasn't a healthy, sustainable growth rate.
Yep, exactly. And as long as we're on this line of thinking too, the other thing I want to make sure we talk about as well, and I think now is a great time to do it as any, is if your profitability then is on the other side of that 80% and it's too low. And so there's a big line there. And what I would tell you all is, while our sweet spot is 80 to 85%, that's where we'd love you to be. That's the sweet spot. If you're below 75%, all right, you really are inefficient. And the lower that number goes, the worse that gets. And what I mean by that is you have way more hours than what you need to have available. And I do not care your pay methodology. Just know this: you're buying hours, whether you realize it or not. And no one wants to go to work and stare at the wall and watch paint dry. You're only going to damage cultures when you do that. So if you have a low productivity, not only does it not, I mean, we can do the obvious math and say, hey, listen, it's harder for me to, productivity is going to mean my sales are where I need them to be and the dollars end of it. I'm not even talking about that. We can automatically relate to that. I want everyone out there that's listening to realize low productivity impacts your culture in a negative way. And you have more time available than what you need. And I will guarantee you, this is just, I think, how we are wired as human beings. When I go to that thing called work, I want to work. Now, is it nice, right, to go in every now and again and have a slower day or that kind of thing? Sure. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is repeatedly slower. Because here's what we know happens, and I've watched it. And again, I'm going to tell on myself. I watched it in my own company, and I've watched it in many companies over the years. If you give people enough time to sit around, they'll find something to talk about and probably talk about in a negative way. And I guess what I'll say is, to be a little bit more blunt, they're going to find something to bitch about. Simple as that. And so low productivity doesn't lead to positive, because I want to go to work and I want to be busy. That's what we want to do. We need that drive, and, low is bad. And again, not only there's all kind of other ill effects from it, how that can impact your pricing, and your need for pricing of services. And I'm sure we'll kind of get down that road at some point too, but there's all kind of negative impacts that we need to be aware of too. With lower productivity, why not do more with less? Because that always leads to healthier companies, culture-wise and financially. So be aware of the negative side too. And again, my line personally is below 75%. And if you are 70 or under, you really are feeling the effects of a low productivity that you might not recognize, but you don't need as many hours as you have for sale. And I guarantee you, more efficiency will lead to better, just in general, for your company.
Such a great point. I'd love to go back and ask, what to do when you're too busy. I'd love to even just share something that I was talking to a salon owner about recently. In one of our power sessions, she was saying, I'm the owner. I have 3 girls working for me. One of them, she can do hair, but I don't have to watch her, but I have 2 more and I have to watch them. They can't do hair. So all the clients go to me. I'm the only one who can take care of them. And she's too busy to train. And it was literally about a 40-minute session with her on devising a training program that will work to help her artists get on the floor, instead of having that consistent problem of like, I have no time to train. So that was like a whole conversation. And then I heard it again today. And I was just like, this is something that I totally could relate to in the past. As a salon owner, I would have 5 clients at once. And, I just, the clients didn't want to go to anybody but me. And we have all of those extra hours for sale. And it's like, how do we balance it out? Do you have any advice for that busy salon owner, or or the salon owner with way low, their productivity is 200, but the rest of their team is 30%?
Right. Well, and so I'm going to piggyback on what you said, Gina, because there isn't another solution other than what you were already alluding to. And that's it. What you have to do is you've got to empower the rest of your team. You've got to be able to trust them. You've got to, and if that means, and I would say to that salon owner, I could make the argument to that salon owner, I'd rather you sacrifice a little bit of the sales that might happen on the day to day to get the training up the speed that they need to feel good, because that's going to help you in the long run. Don't ignore. I think what I want to say, Gina, is this: is I think too many business owners, that they're in that situation, view it as the old fable, the tortoise and the hare, where they see themselves, they're the hare, the rabbit that's out in front and that runs quickly, but they can't stop enough to be able to say, you know what, slow and steady wins that race. And so if I stop what I'm doing here to come back and train those people, now I can move together. My business can move faster as a business in general. And so, but too many people are like too afraid to hit the brakes, or I hate to say it, they're too afraid to hit the brakes because they put themselves in a position where they can't hit the brakes to do that. But you've got to find a way. And I hate to say it, but sometimes you just got to make really hard decisions, or just say, and one of those hard decisions might just be, you know what, I got to take an extra couple hours, even when I don't want those extra couple hours, to come in early or stay later to continue to do training. If I'm that against the wall, that's what I got to do, because I got to empower my team and get them going. But sometimes it just comes down to, I have to just trust what they do know. And I've seen too many business owners just be like, I'm just not sure. And if we wait until everyone is ready, no person's ever going to be exactly ready. You know what I mean? You sometimes just got to go, you know what? I got to get these people out there. I got to get them doing their things. I know that they have enough knowledge and skill, but sometimes we just hold on and we expect perfection. And like our trainings last 2 years. It's like, what are you doing, people?
I totally agree with you. And I'm experiencing that with my 2 girls working at the network, who are going from my baby birds to, taking their own guests. And I think that's something that I taught at GBH, which was one of the things that we really were firm about, was, not everything's going to be perfect all the time. Treat every guest like they're your mom. Treat every guest like they're someone you deeply care about. If it's not your mom, one girl couldn't stand her mom, so she was I was like, treat every person like it's your dog, because she cared about her dog more than anything in the world. And with that mindset and that culture of taking care of every single guest like they were a dear loved one, I trusted all of them to take care of the clients. And I think that the trust factor is huge, and nobody's going to be ready. And it's almost like your words encouraged me, because of course I want them to not fall, but I fell so many times starting out. I had so many redos. I had so many unhappy guests.
Right.
I had so many mistakes. I learned so much, and you're not just born ready to do it. You have to learn. And I think that that's really, really true. And I think that for the owner, I hear it a lot. I hear it almost, I don't want to say it, but I hear it almost every day when I'm coaching and doing stuff. When I'm helping and mentoring salon owners and everything, I'm the one who brings in all the money. I'm the one who keeps the place open. And it's just like, okay, we get it. We get it. It's your place. And if I'm an employee listening to that, like, all I'm feeling is guilt and shame that I'm not good enough to help you.
Right.
And I can't help you. And I think that that's a super toxic environment. And a lot of owners are toxic and they don't even know it. So not trusting your team is toxic, in my opinion. And throwing around the word toxic 200 times is toxic too. So I don't want to just, you know what I mean? I'm not like that either. But sometimes we have to look in the mirror and say, we are the problem at times. And I think the trust is huge. And I love that you brought that up. And I think it's super relevant.
Yep.
I love it. Yeah. So
good stuff.
All right. So what to do when you're too busy? We're going to hire and train. And I totally agree with you that sometimes you just have to slow it down. And I mean, spending within your means, we were talking on the last episode about, financial literacy and even being conservative as a salon owner. It's really important. If you put yourself in a situation where you have to work so much that you can't take a breath to train somebody, I part of it to me is like, either we're spending outside of our means, we're extending ourselves too much, Or maybe we just have a fear of being abandoned by our clients. If we can't get them in right away, we're afraid of letting everybody down, but we're letting down our team. So really taking a breath, taking a minute and doing the training, and it will all come back to you tenfold.
Right. Well, I think, Gina, what you're bringing up too, I don't want to go too far off to the side, but I think what you're bringing up is the fact that you have to really look and reevaluate and say, what did I want to create? Because I'm creating the situation for myself. It's like, you're not creating an environment for people to grow in. You're just creating a situation where it's just like, yeah, if you can't empower and entrust others around you, that's not the situation that I don't think any of us really set out to create. But is that where you've ended up and saying, all right, hey, how am I going to change the script on this? Because I want to change something that says, this isn't what I want to create here. I want something different than that. So, just kind of gets me thinking in that line to realize it's like, sometimes we don't necessarily always realize how did I get here, but we just have to recognize sometimes where we are and go, okay, you know what? I got off track. I took a wrong turn. I did something, but I just need to recenter myself and, get myself back on the right course for where I want to go.
Totally. And I've talked to people about this and they're like, and I'm like, okay, well, are you ready to like make changes happen? And they're like, yeah, sure. And I'm just like, okay, what's the first step? What do we do? And I'll recommend, why don't you take a look at your schedule? And they're like, well, I'm booked out 6 months. And it's just like, a lot of the time it's really hard to make the choices, the hard decision to focus on something else. You know what I mean? So I just really think that the hard decision might be coming in on your day off, might be coming in early, might be staying late. Like you said, Michael, it might be blocking out a few days in the future that you don't have anybody and blocking them off for training days, and even giving yourself a break so you can get re-inspired, realigned with what you were just saying, like why you even started. So I love all of that. I think it's super relevant to today, especially with salon owners and especially with the fear, behind the chair and working in the salon. Clients do have a lot of unrealistic expectations, and there is a lot of fear behind the chair today. Like I see it every single day, and I do feel for new stylists that are starting today. It's a different kind of customer that we see. And I totally empathize with everybody, stylists, salon owners, everybody who's working in the trenches behind the chair. It is a different type of customer that we're dealing with and a lot of high expectations. So really factoring in the self-care and really factoring in like taking care of yourself, because if you're the owner triple booked with 1 million clients and you're taking care of the team and all of their clients that you have to worry about, where do you come in? So you can be too busy. And when you're too busy, I think the big thing is to take action and really realign. Like you said, like look in the mirror and see like, okay, how did I get here? What was I trying to create? And what can I do to change it?
Yep.
Love it. Okay. So the next question is, how can I improve productivity? We started talking about that. My little squirrel brain got us right into it, but we went back and really unpacked it. But we were talking about, if you are not super productive, if your productivity is low, you can become you've become inefficient. You have too many hours for sale. It's damaging to culture. If they have too much time, self-doubt could come, overthinking. I'm taking notes here too, but they might feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. People might not be booking me because I'm not good enough. They'll find things to complain about. So low productivity is detrimental as well. So what can we do to improve productivity? In the beginning of the episode, we talked about pre-book, love pre-book. Do you have any other tips for improving that productivity?
Yeah. So I got another one that I'll share. Probably actually got a couple more, but we'll kind of catch one at a time. Before I do, I want to go back to, because I gave the number, because I think, again, it's good to measure everything as to where we are. So we gave a productivity number, say, hey, sweet spot productivity, 80 to 85%. Let's talk. We already talked about pre-book, but let me give you a number to shoot for. 70% or higher All right, 70% or higher. If you're at least a 70% or more, you're doing well with pre-book, very well with pre-book. That should be the standard that you set for yourselves. And then it just is a matter of, it begins, as I say to everyone I coach with, if the number begins with a 7, then all we're working on is just beat our best, right? And so can we get that to 75% and average that? And then can we get it up to 80% and such forth? So, but if you can live in the 70 to 80% range, you're doing really well with that number. If you're below that, you got room for improvement. All right, you got some room for improvement. And I would tell you this, if you're under 50%, I would stop the other focuses that I have that I think are really important in my company, and I focus on that right away because it's going to give you the greatest, almost one of the greatest immediate returns on that time spent to make that happen. So again, use that as a guide for yourself.
Absolutely. And pre-book, you can track every single day. You're not going to see the reward every single day, like right in the beginning, but like you'll be able to look at your numbers and be like, oh, I had 80% pre-book today. And it's a really awesome quick win.
Yep.
It's a really,
exactly. It is.
Really awesome.
Something you can start tomorrow very easily and be aware of. So, and it's an easy one. If you don't have this is even one of those things, and I'm not even going to let any of you out there listening use your technology as an excuse. The simple fact of the matter is almost I don't know a software system, point of sale software that I haven't worked with that doesn't track it. But even if you don't have it, even if you're the one like I'm the exception of the rule, it's so easy to track by hand. You know what I mean? A little tally sheet. How many clients did I see? How many of those left with a future appointment? Just check mark and check mark. And yep, saw 10 people, 5 of those left with an appointment in the future. Great, 50%. Same math as before, small number divided by big number type of thing. So that's easy. All right. But you did ask for other ideas outside of pre-book. My next one that I would bring up around increasing productivity, especially when we've got time more available to sell, is the second place I'd look to is, I guess we'll kind of lump all these into one, but I'll say add-ons, cross-promote, upsells. All right. We can talk about each one of these. I think they all have their nuances independently. But what I would say is, I would look especially for the add-on, you know what I mean? And what that means to me is something that we could offer that really doesn't take a whole lot of extra time, but we could easily do and accomplish, because every 15 minutes even that you sell makes a big difference as far as that goes. So I'd look for those add-ons or upsells immediately. And I know a lot of you out there have those, even what I'll say, even those menu of services that probably all have an affordability aspect around them to some degree. Like you might say, hey, listen, I got 10 services that are under $25, just as you look down it. It might not even be specifically spelled out that way, but just looking at your menus. Those are great ways to go, hey, listen, as long as you're here, why don't we? And by the way, this also becomes a team sport. All right. This is not just limited now. I'm not just talking to the owner. I'm not just talking to a service provider or team member. I'm talking to everyone from the front desk. Everybody participates and come participate in this because it's a team sport. We can all recognize the fact that we have time. And like I said, the upsell or cross promote, those especially, if you have large chunks of time, really be strategic about how we can plant the seed to be able to sell other bits of time. We know the old trick. Like, so Mrs. Jones, what are you doing with your color today? Oh, I didn't know I was in for any color today. Oh, okay. Well, man, I had some fantastic ideas. So if you'd like to hear them, that kind of thing, and find ways, cross promote, to other services or other things that other team members offer as a business, looking at from a business standpoint, or other things that you offer that are like, hey, listen, I have the time to do this. Don't ever be shy about cross promotion because it benefits the business and everyone that's a part of it.
I think that that's like the most brilliant thing I've ever heard. It's like, oh, what are we doing with color? I didn't know I was in for color. I never have heard that.
Oh, well, I got some great ideas for you. I mean, who's going to go, no, I don't want to hear your great ideas. No one's going to tell you, no, I don't want to hear a great idea. Now, they still may not take you up on it, but what it may do is, I don't have time for that today, but could we do that next time? Sure, we can. So now instead of just selling 45 minutes, I'm selling 2 hours of time because of what I did today. So it might not sell in that immediate moment when we hope it does, but suddenly now we sold 2 more hours in the future that we didn't have sold when that person walked in. Because no one's going to tell you, right, Gina? No one's going to be like, no, you know what, Michael? I don't want to hear that great idea that you have. I'd like you to keep that all to yourself. No, everyone's going to be curiosity, man. It's almost like, don't smell that. You know what I mean? We know you can't avoid that kind of thing. Like, okay. So
I love it. And it almost becomes a game. And it's like, you're taking me back to my GBH days, which were some amazing days. And some of the things that we did that helped us sell our time were, we had a wash house menu, and we had a tea tree shampoo and tea tree experience. It was like a tingly experience. We had a keratin conditioning treatment. We had a moisture conditioning treatment, and we had, what else? Like a collagen one or something. Like we had like 5 different treatments to choose from. All of them were all different prices. And then we had our Olaplex menu, and that menu was the big upsell. Like if you could sell that one, like you killed it. And we made it super high value. So it was crazy not to buy it. Like it included the take home treatment. It included so much. And we had like pictures. We had it laminated on the color bar, laminated like what it was and the before and after, and we upsold so many treatments. It was unbelievable. You can ask anyone who worked at GBH. It was like a game, and we celebrated at Huddle. We called it powwow, but we celebrated as a team. And when we talk about staff retention, I think we really should dive deep into how Huddle and powwows and those meetings are critical, because that's when we celebrated our wins, and that's when we held each other accountable, or celebrated each other rather for our wins. I think it was like really, really awesome. And other things that we did, especially during the summer when it was slow, every guest we were pre-booking like a week or 2 later for a keratin. Keratin treatments, those 1.5 to 2 hour services that 2 team members could do, where we can do them in 40 minutes. When we had a lot of team members available, team keratin treatments were huge. We actually did a sale on them. We did 50% off keratin, and we had everybody in town trying our salon, and we had 2 people doing them. And when I hired people, that's how I got their books full, was keratin. A lot of people do a blow dry bar to get people experience. We would do keratin, and we would do it nonstop. And it was like a game. It totally was like a game. Once you start keeping track of the number, once you know the score, it becomes a game.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to what you just were saying, Gina, that this actually helps us to address even the problem we were citing on the other side, where, hey, an owner is 200% productive, like always busy, but they have team members that aren't. Listen, as an owner, then maybe you do have, in a real, genuine way, maybe you just have people that aren't up to speed with everything. But what things are they up to speed with that you can cross promote into them, that's not only going to get them busy, generate your business a higher level of sales, but that also makes them feel empowered, and it grows their skills. You know, Gina, it really hit me when you were saying, hey, listen, we had team members that came in, and the way we got them trained and skilled on keratin. Boom, there you go. High value service that we can do, that's in demand, and that's how we're going to get you. Maybe they couldn't do these other 5 services yet because we are still in training, but they could do this service, and we're going to make sure we maximize that. So that kind of works on both sides of the scale that we just kind of looked at, whether we need to fill some time or we are highly productive looking to grow team. That's that empowering your team, component, depending on which way you want to look at it. But it helps in any situation. So, you've got, like I said, if I'm looking at it, big things, easy things, pre-book, upsell, add-on, cross-promote, those things absolutely are going to impact productivity. No doubt about it.
I love it. I'm going to add one more just because I'm on fire right now.
Go ahead.
I'd also love to add one way to improve productivity is to confirm your appointments.
Yes.
And protect your schedule, because when we didn't have a consistent front desk person helping us out, a guest care team, we had so many no-shows. We had so many last minute cancellations, and it is so critical to confirm your schedule. So critical. Confirm. Wow. We just went over so much.
That's good stuff. It is. Well, I've got more on my list, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to save that one for customer loyalty, or I'm going to save this for there, because there are things that like to start to, just to give you one idea, and I won't explore it here. I'll save it for when we talk about that outcome. But just another illustration of how I just want to illustrate more than anything, how the 4 business outcomes intertwine with one another, and about how one thing affects another thing. If you want to talk about growing productivity, one of the biggest things you can do. So we talked about pre-book, upsell, add-ons, and again, confirmations. Those are immediate things you can do. Another thing that you can do right now and start to impact right now that will absolutely impact productivity is create a great customer experience and retain the guest. That grows productivity faster than anything in the long term. That's more customer loyalty related when it comes to the details of talking about that. We'll save that conversation for that outcome when we dive into it. But you can see the illustration is that the customer loyal piece that I do over here suddenly trickles over into the idea that it impacts productivity, because what I did in this outcome impacts this outcome. And oh, by the way, to tie this together, we grow productivity. What's naturally going to happen? Makes it easier. I'm not going to say makes it happen, makes it easier for us to have profitability. And again, we'll save any of that discussion. We'll keep these segmented, but just kind of trying to paint the picture for you guys that nothing lives in its own little place. They all intertwine together when you really look at it in the end.
I totally agree. And it's so fun to talk about and like nerd out on, because we both love this industry so much.
Totally geeking out.
Totally geeking out, because like you'll say something and I'm like, oh my God, like my brain, like have you ever seen like those pictures, like they're like the meme where like the whole part of the brain lights up? Like that's how I feel when I talk about salon business. And this is so awesome. I'm so excited for the next episode where we're going to dive deep into profitability. We're going to talk about everything profitability, how to grow it, how to make it happen. This episode was amazing, Michael. Thank you so much.
And time flew. I can't believe we're already done.
I can't believe how fast that went, but I'm like, well,
we better do a few more of these, Gina. That's all I got to say. We better do a few more.
Yeah, they're so good. So I'm so excited. Everybody, remember, be sure to check out Strategies at Strategies4Biz on Instagram, and be sure to visit their site, www.strategies.com. Make sure to use my code GINA10 if you get a course. It goes on all of their courses. You could save 10%. They are amazing courses. I've taken all of them. Some of you guys are like, Gina, I want to do what you do. I'm like, okay, well, you need to educate yourself, and who better to learn from than the people who I learned from? Like, I love strategy so much, you guys, and I hope that you're enjoying this series so far. I'm learning so much, and I'm getting so inspired just talking about salon business, and I hope you are too. So remember, use my code GINA10, check out Strategies. If you have a question you'd like to ask us toward the end of our series, we're going to be doing some Q&A. Please be sure to DM either me at I am Gina Bianca or Strategies at Strategies4Biz on Instagram. Everybody, I hope you have an amazing day. Michael, thank you again, and we'll see you on the next one. What's up, everybody? I want to let you know before we go that Strategies has one of the best classes for hair salons, hairstylists, independent artists, whoever you are. If you want to grow your business, you need to take Incubator. I've taken this class 3 times. It's one of my best kept secrets. They taught me so much about business. highly recommend Strategies and all of their seminars. I've taken pretty much all of them, and some of them multiple times. I coached with Strategies for 3 years during my, ownership at Gina Bianca Hair, and it was the best thing for me. I learned so much from them. Their seminars, you could save 10% using my code GINA10. They are some of the best seminars in the industry, so I hope you take them. You could visit strategies.com. You can also click the link in the description of this podcast and just use my code GINA10. You'll save 10% off these amazing seminars. Hope you enjoy. Thank you for listening to the Gina Bianca podcast. This episode is produced by Alora Media.